Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at some of the regional forms as well as new evolutions that are coming up for Pokemon Go, eventually at least, which are already in the main series games. This video took so long, so feel free to leave a like, would appreciate it. Took a ton of effort, let's go right into it. First Pokemon we're going to have here is going to be the Hisui Lilligant. This was actually kinda leaked to be something that is going to come soon, but then never happened, so interesting that we don't have this Pokemon yet. But as you're going to see right now, this Pokemon has a very high attack stat. It's a grass and fighting type Pokemon, which we have already a few of, for example the Chestnut or also the Breloom. So it is not really that unique. It has a signature move that we might get into the game, but as you're going to see right now, the best moveset right now most likely is Bullet Seed, Leaf Blade, and Close Combat. It would be a very strong moveset, don't get me wrong, but this Pokemon, both for Ultra League as well as for Great League, would be just a mid-tier Pokemon just because of the stats right now. So definitely an interesting Pokemon to have, but not the greatest. Let's take a look at the next Pokemon coming up right now. It's going to be the Hisui Goodra. Goodra is going to be also, basically the Gumi is going to be available during the Global Go Fest. So definitely check this one out. Definitely try to get a good Gumi and just keep it as a Gumi, because if you evolve a normal Gumi, you can get the Hisuian Sliggoo, which is also in Hisuian form, so like you can have the base form here right now, but also just get the XL candy already for this Pokemon, because this Pokemon is going to be very cool. Having now the extra steel typing as well as more bulk than the normal variant gives this Pokemon a very interesting niche for the Great League, as you can see here, winning 25 matchups here and only losing 17, while having one of the best typings possible. Going to make this a very cool meta breaker for both the Great as well as the Ultra League. Here we're going to have Dragon Claw and Iron Head. Could be a different moveset, of course, we don't know about this moveset yet. There are some Pokemon in the video, by the way, where actually the moveset is already in the code, so it's going to be interesting. For Master League, while it gets to 3754, you might want to build it for the Master League Premier Cup, but not so much for the Open Master League, unless you want to run a team with both Dialga as well as the Hisui Goodra. So, very cool Pokemon, S tier for sure. As you see here as well, always like a ranking, which kind of shows you what is important and what not. Next Pokemon here, going to be a very interesting one. Basculeigon, going to be only evolved by a special Basculin, that's the name. For a special Basculin, which is having like white stripes on its side. Interesting for sure, but you can still already get the XL candies as well as the normal candies for this Pokemon, because it's going to have the same as the current Pokemon that we're going to find in the wild, but of course you cannot evolve the ones that you currently find. But this Pokemon is going to be a Ghost and Water type, just like the Jellicent. Gonna go to 3425 CP. This is, by the way, the CP for level 50, not level 51, and has a very high stamina stat, has a very decent attack stat, and a very low defense stat, which makes it a little bit awkward to use. It's kind of hit or miss. It only has really Hex or Water Gun as a fast move, which is not really that ideal. So if it would get a better fast move, I think this Pokemon has a little bit more of a potential to be decent, but at the current time, it's most likely not the best Pokemon to use, but still an interesting one to have. Maybe something like a team together with the Jellicent would be an interesting shout. Let's take a look at the next one here right now. It's going to be Meloetta. Meloetta already in the game, the normal form, but not the period form right now. And as you're going to see right now, the period form is going to have a little bit more attack, but in general lacks a little bit more bulk. And it's a way worse than the normal area form right now for the Meloetta. So definitely don't really get this one. Rather go for the normal variant that we have already. The normal variant wins way more matchups. The typing is better. Normal and fighting is kind of cool. Quick attack is okay. The Fire Punch is kind of okayish as a coverage as well, but this Pokemon is just not really that great. Getting also kind of walled by a lot of other stuff. Like definitely the normal variant is just a little bit better, like actually by far better. So this only gets a rank D here because it's not really that great to have. But now we're going to go ahead and go for some very big ones here right now. There's an Origin form for Dialga coming eventually to the game. And this Origin form is going to be even bulkier than the current one. Lose a little bit of attack, so it would lose the MP type for sure, but it's going to be a little bit bulkier. And this actually flips quite a lot of matchups, which is really cool to see. So like, this is definitely going to be the Dialga you want to go for. It's better than the normal Dialga that you currently have. And yeah, that's going to look like a very weird Pokemon, but eventually it's going to come into the game, and when it's there, definitely going to be an interesting one. I would expect it for February next year, by the way. For the Sinnoh Tour, I would expect that we get the Origin form for Dialga. and also Giratina most likely, but also for Palkia, which you're going to take a look at next. And this Pokemon gets a huge buff by having the Origin form. For example, you see already the CP, it's going to be even higher CP than the Dialga, which is I think currently not the case. So it gets a lot of attack, it's very attack rated to be fair, but this Pokemon going to be really, really strong, really insane for this meta if it has still the same moves as before. So honestly, I hope that this Pokemon comes soon into the game. I would expect again for this going to be released in February, but maybe Niantic is also a little bit like, okay, we can just milk the Dialga and Palkia again and just give them their signature moves. I could see this as well with Niantic, but if those Pokemon come out with the Origin form, it's going to be a very, very strong pick there. Both of them S tier, both of them insanely good for the Master League here for sure. So we can move on into the next Pokemon here right now, which is going to be the Hisui Typhlosion. This Pokemon as well is going to have now the Fire and Ghost typing. So gaining the Ghost typing, making it basically an Alolan Marowak, but a little bit better in terms of the stats in general. But you can now use it for the Ultra League, for example, but also for the Great League. And as you can see here right now, it's a B tier because I think the typing has a lot of potential. It's a little bit better than Ultra League, not as great. Here you see of course the Great League variant running around, but you kind of need to have its signature move being something like a 40 energy charge move or something as a ghost type in order to make this Pokemon nice, because you have a very squishy Pokemon, and squishy Pokemon always need like some kind of charge moves that they get too fast because you can get some decent damage with that one. But here right now with Shadow Ball and Blast Burn, there is nothing like this, so going to be interesting. I think typing plus also a Fire Ghost type that can use Shadow Claw, which is kind of unique, would be very, very nice for the game. But you kind of need to have the signature move that it learns as well, kind of translate into the game to have somewhat of a cheaper Ghost type charge move, which would be really nice for this Pokemon here. Let's take a look at the next one. Of course, going to be the Samurott. And Samurott going to have now the Dark typing as well, which is very interesting, has its own signature move as well. Of course, we don't have this in the game yet, so we're gonna go ahead and go for Fury Killer, Night Slash, as well as Hydro Cannon. And this moveset is fairly decent, but it is basically, in terms of Night Slash, Hydro Cannon, the same as Greninja, and Greninja is just a better fast move. So Greninja is going to win this by a landslide, so Greninja is just going to be a better Samurott most likely when this Pokemon comes out. Night Slash of course helps this Pokemon out for sure, but maybe we're gonna get its signature move as well when this Pokemon gets released, and then it might be a little bit better than Greninja right now. But right now Greninja, there's no way that the Hisui and Samurott will be better than Greninja without getting a new signature move. So let's take a look, of course, at the third one in this trio, which is going to be the Hisui Decidueye. Getting, just like the Lilligant, the Fighting type together with the Grass type here right now. And this Pokemon is going to be sadly just a C tier Pokemon in my opinion. Again, it would have another signature move. If the signature move would be something like 35 energy and a very strong move with that, maybe. But right now, you kind of would like to have a Leafage buff. Honestly, Leafage needs a buff. Hopefully it's going to get a buff. But otherwise, this Pokemon will most likely not be the greatest one. Could be interesting for still Ultra League, but I don't really see this Pokemon being too common right now. Niantic really just needs to give this Pokemon a better fast move, like give Leafage a buff. And also the normal Decidueye just needs something like Shadow Claw as a fast move to be good finally. But yeah, right now this Pokemon will not be the best Pokemon ever. It's just C tier, maybe there's some potential in the future, but I don't really think it's too interesting, sadly. So, next Pokemon coming up going to be Cursola. This one is going to be an interesting one because this Pokemon here right now is, yeah, having a very interesting stat here. You see already the attack set is insanely high. This Pokemon is insanely squishy, and sadly because of this it's not going to be too great, because any kind of Ghost type Pokemon that doesn't run Shadow Claw kinda is not great, because here we're going to only be able to run Hex, and this moveset, by the way, is already in the move pool, like basically in the game code, so like this is going to be exactly how it's going to be, right, at least unless they're going to change it before they release it, but this is exactly what it is currently in the game code, so I don't have to choose this moveset here right now. It's just not great. It's honestly just not great. But the pre-evolution, the also Cursola, of course, going to be fairly decent, hopefully. But again, you kind of need a Hex buff or something to make it great, because right now it's just not as good. I really would like to see a Hex buff, but then again, Jellicent kind of ruins it all for everybody. So maybe something like Astonish would be a better move to buff, or just give Ghost types better fast moves or different fast moves right now, because everything that doesn't have Shadow Claw right now is kind of unusable, which is kind of sad to see. So we can skip over this one. Oopsie. Let's take a look now at the next one coming up, going to be the Hisui Zoroark. This is going to be a fan favorite for sure, like one of the coolest designs. You can only get, like, of course, the candies as well as the XL candies right now for this Pokemon, as you also need the Hisui Zoroark to evolve this Pokemon. But it has the best, basically the best defensive typing, only being weak to one type as far as I know, being dark typing. And that's basically it, which makes this Pokemon super cool. But you see already, it's insanely squishy. It's literally the craziest glass cannon ever. But if you give it the right moveset, with Body Slam, Shadow Ball, and Shadow Claw, this Pokemon actually has a lot of potential. And also for the Ultra League, this Pokemon would have a lot of potential. So I'm actually curious on how good this Pokemon is going to be when it's going to get released. But it needs to have Body Slam. If it doesn't have Body Slam, this Pokemon will be unusable. So Shadow Claw, Body Slam would be a cool combination. I would love to see it because you see the stat product is super low, literally one of the lowest possible stat product for the Great League. So really hope that the moveset gonna be insanely good, because otherwise this Pokemon has basically no play. It would also have a signature move, by the way, I think. So, would be interesting if it's going to get into the game as well. Going to be a Ghost type charge move, most likely then. Very interesting if it's going to be a part of the game. But let's take a look at the next Pokemon coming up. Wyrdeer. This is going to be an evolution of Stantler. So you can already get the Stantler candies, a good Stantler as well. You need it in the normal Stantler. But I could also see this Pokemon getting released in raids again. Like, for example, the Cleaver, which we had recently in raids. But eventually, I think you should be able to also evolve this Pokemon. It would be very silly if not to. We had already some scenarios where we are able to evolve normal Pokemon to, like, the Alolan form, for example. We had an event where you could get Alolan Executor, we evolve our Execute and stuff like this. Hopefully this stuff comes back again. But yeah, at least you can get the XL candy already, or the normal candies. But honestly, it's sadly not the best Pokemon. It would have also a signature move if it would learn this. Maybe it's going to be a little bit better, because Psyshock is just not cutting it. Needs something more like Psy Strike Clone or something like this. But again, Body Slam kind of helps for this Pokemon. Going to be a little bit better in Ultra League compared to Great League, but it's not going to be a good Pokemon at all right now, sadly. But would be interesting if they're going to buff it a little bit with something like the signature move that it learns. Speaking of signature move that it learns, is going to be an interesting one for this one here as well. This Pokemon would learn the signature move Hyper Drill, a very strong normal type move that I could see something to be something like, for example, a Blast Burn clone just as a normal type, or a Psy Strike clone as a normal type, which would make this Pokemon way better. Right now, I just put the normal moveset in for the normal Dudunsparce, but Dudunsparce here is going to be definitely an interesting pick for the Ultra League. Not so much for the Great League. For the Great League, the normal variant is just a little bit bulkier, so also a little bit better. And I don't really expect that this Pokemon going to be too great for the Great League, unless you're gonna get, of course, its signature move, which would be a very interesting one here. But let's take a look at the next Pokemon, which is also going to be a normal type, and it's going to be Farigiraf. This Pokemon is going to be actually more interesting than I thought it would be. This is like kind of a sleeper pick. I put it into a rank B, could be even rank A, but it's basically a Girafarig for the Ultra League. I like Girafarig already for the Great League. Very interesting Pokemon, kind of underrated. But here we're gonna go for the Confusion moveset. You might even go for a Shadow variant, would be better for this one, because it can learn Psychic Fangs, and Psychic Fangs makes this Pokemon so much better. And actually, it even has more bulk than the pre-evolution for the Great League, which is something that you, for example, you didn't see for the Dudunsparce. The Dudunsparce had less bulk. This Pokemon has more bulk because it got an insane amount of HP here. Of course, the stats, by the way, throughout the video are all from Game Press, so if they made a mistake, I made a mistake. So I didn't, of course, I had to consider that they most likely have the right stats in there. But yeah, if those are wrong, then blame them, don't blame me. But here we're going to see an HP stat that's really high, which is really cool for this Pokemon, making it even bulkier and making it viable for the Ultra League, which is so cool to see if this is going to actually happen. And of course, you should definitely be able to evolve it just with your normal Girafarig. This should not be like any regional form or like anything that should be locked behind any race or something like this. Of course, we don't know with Niantic, but this should be just a standard one. Next Pokemon going up here, going to be already a Pokemon that I showcased several times on my channel in different videos, so we're gonna make it fast. Annihilape is going to be insanely good. Honestly, the typing itself going to make it such a meta breaker with Ghost and Fighting typing being able to destroy Medicham as well. having even Shadow Claw, I think, theoretically, but here with Counter Shadow Punch as well as the Close Combat, has a signature move with Rage Fist. There are going to be so many teams that are going to run this Pokemon most likely. It's going to be so cool to have, especially because it's a squishy Pokemon that still has a lot of play, which is really cool to see. As plus, the most exciting Pokemon can be played in every 3 leagues, which is really cool to see as well. Also, same typing as a mythical Pokemon, which I'm really excited for when this Pokemon coming into the game, which is Marshadow. I'm saving my Rare XL Kingings for this Pokemon. But right now, Annihilape going to be a very interesting pick as well for all leagues, which is going to be very cool. So, next Pokemon coming up, going to be the interesting one here as well, going to be actually 3 Pokemon. I'm only going to showcase one of them, which is going to be the Tauros. Tauros is a Paldean form, which is not an evolution or anything. This is just like a regional form, but you can of course get already the candies if you live in the US. But this Pokemon here right now has 3 different forms. It has a normal form, which is just pure fighting. It has a fire form, which is fire and fighting, and it has a fire and water form as well. And here we're going to see the better one from them, which is going to be the water form, which can learn Surf as well. Going to be a fairly neutral Pokemon there, but I feel like this Pokemon just has like nothing really going for it. I feel like something like a Poliwrath is going to be better, has the same typing for this one. For firefighting, maybe something like a Blaziken might be even better than this Pokemon. Really depends on the moveset it's going to get. But I don't really see this Pokemon being like dominant or like being very strong. So this C tier is everything that I can really give it to them. But let's move on right into the next Pokemon, which is going to be one of the most exciting one. If you saw my leaks for the new season video, you might already see something about this one. But yeah, I'm going to put it in here as well. It is definitely an A tier, and might be even an S tier. I was like kind of in between this one. Very great stats, basically perfect stats that you want to have for the Great League. Does not really get high enough for the Ultra League, but completely shuts down Registeel. Like literally nothing they can do. So I actually feel like as soon as this Pokemon going to be out, Registeel kinda going to die off, and instead people are going to run Galarian Stunfisk, because Galarian Stunfisk actually should be able to beat Clodsire. So Galarian Stunfisk is going to be the better Pokemon to go for. And yeah, Registeel most likely going to vanish anyway as soon as this Pokemon comes out, just because it completely hardlocks them in. The Zap Cannon going to be resisted by the ground typing twice, and the Focus Blast going to be resisted by the poison typing. Well, yes, Poison Shot going to be double resisted, Earth Power going to be super effective. 2 Earth Powers are enough to knock out the Registeel, and this is going to be one of the more exciting Pokemon. Rank A here for me, definitely one of them that you kind of want to watch. And into the final Pokemon here for today, it's going to be Kingambit. This Pokemon is going to be very good, S tier for sure. So like if you have a 100% variant of this Pokemon, for sure keep it. It's currently, it's always going to be stay most likely a Dark and Steel type Pokemon, which makes this Pokemon very cool, because it's going to be able to resist the basically everything from Dialga, which is going to be very nice. Going to be very good against those Dragon type Pokemon in general, but also destroys Ghost type Pokemon, destroys Lugia completely, resists everything from Lugia, which is really exciting to see. And I'm most likely already going to power up the pre-evolution just to get this Pokemon eventually. And if it gets Night Slash, which I didn't have in here right now, I just put in the moveset that the pre-evolution had already, just because the pre-evolution also would learn Night Slash already. But like if it gets Night Slash, it's going to be even crazier. But already I feel like this Pokemon is going to be one of the strongest one possible for the Master League. So yeah, if this video gave you any information that you didn't know before, please feel free to smash the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the video on the screen right now, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.